Hey everyone, welcome back to my anatomy series. I'm Hajira, and in this lecture, we are going to learn one of the most important bones of the upper limb, the humerus, also called the arm bone. If you have watched my clavicle and scapula videos, this will complete your shoulder girdle plus arm foundation. So let's get started. So first, what exactly is the humerus? It is the longest bone of the upper limb, extending all the way from the shoulder to the elbow. Like most long bones, it has three main parts: upper end, shaft, lower end. A small mnemonic to remember: this is USL, meaning upper, shaft, and lower. This bone is super important because it forms joints at both the ends, the shoulder joint above and the elbow joint below. Now let's look at the upper end. The first structure here is the head of the humerus. The head is round, smooth, and fits into the glenoid cavity of the scapula. This is what forms the shoulder joint, which is one of the most mobile joints in the body. Just below the head, we have the anatomical neck. Next comes the tubercles. We have two: greater tubercle and lesser tubercle. Greater tubercle located laterally on the outside, and lesser tubercle located anteriorly in the front. Between them is a depression called intertubercular sulcus, also called the bicipital groove, where the tendon of the long head of biceps brachii passes through. Just remember a small rule: greater outside and lesser front. Moving to the shaft, the long central portion. On the anterior side, the most important feature is the deltoid tuberosity. This rough V-shaped area is where the deltoid muscle inserts. You'll also see the nutrient foramen, which allows blood vessels to enter the bone. On the posterior side, we have the famous radial groove, also called the spiral groove. This is extremely important because the radial nerve runs in the groove along with the profunda brachii artery. The triceps muscles also attaches around this area. So remember, radial nerve runs in the spiral groove. This will help you in applied anatomy later. Alright, now let's move to the lower end, which forms the elbow joint. Here we have multiple structures. Medial epicondyle, a prominent bump. This is where flexor muscle originates. The ulnar nerve runs right behind it, which is why you feel electric shock when you hit on your elbow. Lateral epicondyle, smaller, where extensor muscles originate. Capitulum, rounded, articulates with the radius. Trochlea, spool-shaped, articulates over the ulna. Then we have olecranon fossa, coronoid, and radial fossae. So first, olecranon fossa. On the posterior side, coronoid and radial fossae on the anterior side. A quick mnemonic: CTO. Capitulum, trochlea, and olecranon. Alright, here are the important muscles attached. On the greater tubercle, we have the sits muscle, supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor. These form the rotator cuff. On the lesser tubercle, subscapularis, in the bicipital groove, latissimus dorsi, teres major, pectoralis major. At the deltoid tuberosity, the deltoid muscle inserts. At the medial epicondyle, the flexor group of the foramen. At the lateral epicondyle, the extensor group. This slide is great for revising attachments quickly. Alright, the ossification of the humerus is simple. Primary center shaft appears in the 8th week of the fetal. Secondary centers: head, greater and lesser tubercle, capitulum, trochlea, medial epicondyle. Alright, So just remember the line humerus matures by 22. All the center fuse around 20 to 22 years. Okay, this is where the humerus becomes clinically important. Applied anatomy. Surgical neck fracture damages the axillary nerve, deltoid paralysis. Midshaft fracture. Risky of the radial nerve causes wrist drop. Supracondylar fracture. May injure the brachial artery. Medial epicondyle fracture. Affects the ulnar nerve, leads to claw hand. A good memory trick for humerus fracture. Think of a arm, A. Axillary nerve, R. Radial nerve, M. Median and ulnar at the epicondyle. Alright, let's get into quiz now. What type of the bone is the humerus? Long bone. The humeral head articulates with which structure? Glenoid cavity of the scapula. Which tubercle is seen anteriorly? Lesser tubercle. What runs inside the intertubercular sulcus? Tendon of the long head of biceps brachii. Which nerve runs in the spinal radial groove? Radial nerve. Deltoid muscle inserts into which part of the humerus? Deltoid tuberosity. Capitulum articulates with which bone? Radius. Medial epicondyle is the origin for which muscle group? Forearm flexor group. Which nerve is commonly injured in surgical neck fracture? Axillary nerve. What is the primary ossification center of the humerus? The shaft. Before ending, let's summarize the entire humerus. Long bone of the arm with upper end, shaft and lower end. Upper end, head, neck, tubercles. Biceptal groove. Shaft, deltoid tuberosity, spiral groove. And now lower end, capitulum, trochlea, epicondyles. Ossification. One primary plus multiple secondary centers. Applied anatomy. Axillary, radial, median, ulnar nerve injury. In next lecture, we'll continue with the pectoral girdle and shoulder joint. Thank you.